The main part of the object desk, the object description, is the so-called MS desk, which stands for, as we discussed yesterday, manuscript description, because TI, which EpiDoc is a subset, originally was mainly designed for the encoding of medieval manuscripts. So this is something that remained as was inherited from the original TI. You have several things which are called MS Desk in your files. So we have in every epigraphic edition, as well as in every EpiDoc file, we have the physical description of the monument, the locations and the history of finding, and dates and dating information, the history of the monument, the previous editions, which can also be referred to in the Apparatus Criticus, which is part of a division of the text part of the encoding. You can have here all the inventory numbers that you need. In this part of the metadata to the monument come the repositories and inventory numbers that come from the museums where most of the inscriptions are stored. There are inscriptions which are not stored in museums. They can be part of some later buildings. Some inscriptions can be integrated into the walls and the floors of later buildings, such as churches, monasteries, or even houses. Some public fountains, for example, it is a very common phenomenon from the Ottoman period, for example. Or they can be simply discovered and put on display somewhere in the urban milieu of a city or a settlement. And of course, you usually don't have inventory numbers, although they can still be part of a museum inventory in some way, but there is also another way to describe this as part of the history of the monument, but we will discuss this later. And then comes the thing which we have dealt with yesterday, text translation and commentary. We have dealt primarily with the text, but you can put your own translations and you can make as much commentary on different aspects of the inscription, text critical, paleographic, linguistic, cultural, historical, etc. In your commentary. And for the sake of visualization, when we reach that part, you can simply, if you don't know what to put in the inscriptions that you're encoding currently, you can put some dummy commentaries or take commentaries from the inscriptions that are already encoded to see how this is visualized. But we will reach that point. Here you see how metadata are visualized. Almost all epigraphic projects, which are, almost all projects dealing with classical archaeology and epigraphy, I have to say. I don't know about Mayan or Hindu or other types of inscriptions, which all also tend to use EpiDoc these days, but the classical inscriptions, the inscriptions coming from classical antiquity, together with the papyri on the papyri info database, look, if not completely identical, very, very close to each other, because they're basically based on the same pattern. The EpiDoc structure that you saw previously. If there are some customizations and deviations from this generic structures, they are still compatible to the general EpiDoc schema in order for the files to be able to validate against the schema and to be interchangeable with other projects. So yeah, as I told you, this is designed for primarily for manuscripts in libraries, and the repository number was primarily intended for library repository. So the repository was obligatory when this was first added as a module in TI, the generic TI schema in its P5 version, which is from 2007, and this is the current version with only slight modifications since then. The provenance was optional, and the measurements were two-dimensional. In EpiDoc, as a subset of TI, a subset quite often has some stricter rules, some stricter obligations how to encode things. The provenance is not optional. And of course, the measurements are mostly three-dimensional, not two-dimensional. Here you see a snapshot of how a manuscript, in this case, Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, was in the Bodleian Library of Oxford, was encoded. And yes, this is again a part of the structured cheat sheet that you saw before. The MS identifier, which stands for manuscript identifier, you can indicate country, especially if you have a project which encompasses several different countries. For example, this, I think, is taken from the IOSPE project, when they have inscriptions in repositories dating from the time of the USSR. So you have monuments stored in at least two different countries. That is nowadays, this is Russia and Ukraine. If you're making a small project with inscriptions from only one place, I believe this is not obligatory, so you can leave the country tag empty, but don't suppress it, don't take it out of your template, because it will give a mistake. You can have additionally a settlement. You can have a repository, which could be a grammar institution, a museum, an archive, and things like that. You can have a description of the material support of your monument, where usually you have indication of the material of which the monument is made of. In our case, this will be, of course, stone predominantly. If you're not including some inscribed pottery, for example, in your epigraphic collections, it will be predominantly stone, but you may want to indicate what type of stone is used. We have special authority lists in our project that deal with the enumeration of the types of stone used, be it limestone, marble, sandstone, etc., etc. You have the physical description of the monument contains object description, and the object description is divided in several parts, of which one part is the support description, where you indicate what type of object this is and what material it is made of. For example, a marble ara, or sandstone pedestal for a statue, or something like that. You can also have a list that enumerates the object types that you have in your collection, but we will also come to this later. And then you have something called layout description, which always contains a sub-element called layout. just as much as support description obligatory contains at least one element called support. And then in the support, you can have running text, which is usually encompassed by Ps, by paragraph tags. And you can write here whatever you wish, but if you have a word or a phrase, a string, whatever that describes your material, be sure to also encompass this and tag this as material, because you probably would want all your inscriptions to be able to be filtered by that criterion. And layout description also contains a daughter element called layout. And in it, I believe in running text without the help of the P element, you can say where exactly on the physical object is the inscribed part. Because sometimes this is not a trivial question, and you can have different varieties of inscription. For example, if you have an image, a relief or something, it could be above the relief, below the relief, surrounding the relief, above and below and on both sides. If you have a sarcophagus, which is another object type, you might have your inscription on one side of the sarcophagus and sometimes encircled by a special field, usually a rectangular field where the inscription stays, and etc., etc. And after you do the object description, which consists of describing the support, the material support, and the layout, you have a hand desk, which stands for hand description. And in the hand desk, you can have one or more hand notes, which describe the paleography of the monument. And the paleography of the monument also can be described in running text. Here you can include all the peculiarities of the text that you cannot fit anywhere else. For example, for the different types of scripts, you may indicate this this here. You can indicate, for example, if we're speaking about Greek inscriptions, you can encode all the different types of peculiar letters. For example, the sigmas, if the sigmas are regular, or a lunar sigma, or sigma quadrata, or something like that, you can describe it here. And here is where you also give the measurements of the letter heights. So this is substring, which is here you can have in hand notes, you can have running text, but if you have letter heights, you obligatorily tag them as height. And this height, when it is in hand note, it is clear that it stands for the heights of the letters, because you have another type of height, the height of the monument itself, but we will come to this later. You can have exact measurements of letters. You can have measurements of the letters from to. For example, it could be this amount of millimeters on the first line, and another height in the rest of the lines of the inscriptions. And this, if you go back to your cheat sheets from yesterday, when we described the another quantifications, such as the extent of lines or characters missing, you can have the attributes at least, at most. So if the letter height is from 0.2 to 0.6 centimeters, you indicate it here with attributes to the element height. And the question with the history of the monument. In the history of the monument, you have several things which have names which are very close to each other, and in everyday speech if they are not used as technical terms for the description of metadata in XML. They could be interchangeable, so you have to be careful about this. Origin, you have in history, you have sub-elements origin and provenance. Origin stands for the original place of production of the monument. This is the ancient place. And you can have auric dates as sub-elements where you give the date of the inscription. And you can have auric place, which gives the ancient place where the inscription was produced with its ancient name. For example, if we have an inscription which was found in the vicinities of today's Belgrade or today's Sofia, in auric place, we have to write down Singidunum or Serdica. Provenance, which usually the only provenance which is absolutely obligatory to fill in the information for, is the provenance with the attribute type found, and an additional attribute that you can have, but it's not obligatory when it was found, if this is important for you. The provenance is the modern place. If an inscription was produced in ancient Serdica and it had to deal with the population of Serdica, the settlement of Serdica, or any events that took place in Serdica, Serdica's officials, imperial visits to Serdica, etc., etc. This is related to the original place of the monument, but it is found in what is today the city of Sofia. So we distinguish between those two. And of course, we have cases when we have an ancient settlement to which we don't know the name. So you can have here in auric place name, instead of a particular place name, you can have a description of the exact place where you think an inscription was produced. For example, we have examples in Bulgaria of some votive reliefs which were found near a cave when there was probably a sanctuary, a water sanctuary of the nymphs, and there were Asclepiaea and so on. And we don't know if there was an actual settlement there. We don't know if this ancient place had its own name, and if it had, we don't know the name. So here you can also describe the place of origin with running text different than an ancient name. But if you do have an ancient name, it comes here. And it can then be referred to a gazetteer such as Pleiades, which we will discuss probably tomorrow. But provenance type found, you have to be careful to distinguish between origin, which is the original place, and provenance, which is the modern find spot. This is where the modern place when the inscription was found.
Just a quick note, please,
yes.
because I saw this, it's not a mistake, but it's a peculiarity of the presentation and the template. Type ancient find spot actually stands in provenance type found. It's counterintuitive and it's really weird, but it is like that. It is an obligatory attribute of provenance type found.
Okay, yes.
So we just have to correct this because this is important.
I think that we also have to update this with some additional information, because I don't see here many features of the physical description.
I will show them in the object description.
Yes. There's more to it than this. And when you start filling in your own metadata, you will see this all at once in one place. Here, the training materials that have been produced so far decided to scatter them in several different presentations, but you will get used to it. So we have also the physical description of the monument itself, which will come shortly.
Just this note about the ancient find spot, because it's really confusing. I will share my screen and I will show you on the template. Provenance type found. Here is where the ancient find spot stands, and the auric place doesn't need type ancient find.
I want to say something when we look at this template. Can you go back to
Yeah, just 1 second.
our own? So we also have this, as you see, in auric dates. For example, if you have, you may not have an exact dating. You may have exact dating, which is exact to the point of even months. For example, if you are familiar with the titulature of different emperors, we have cases of inscriptions, and you will have cases of inscriptions where you can date an inscription up until the month where it was produced, because, for example, in 2014, the Emperor Caracalla was designated a consul, but he still hasn't received his honorific title of Germanicus or something like that. But this is the rarer case. Usually, what you can have is a datation which is simply this could not be something else than 3rd century CE, because of the script that was used, which was characteristic of 3rd century CE. In this case, the auric date, as you see here, uses the attributes not before, not after. 3rd century AD would be not before the year 200, not after the year 299. And also bear in mind that we're using 4-digit numbers. This is because, again, this is because it was designed primarily for manuscripts. And we rarely have manuscripts which date from before the 10th century that we can deal with. So the default values of attributes such as not before, not after are 4-digit numbers. So if you have the year 2040, for 240, for example, you must indicate here 0 to 140. Yep. And if you have a datation which was before Christ, before the Christian era, you will have a minus sign to it.
Yep.
Minus
here.
0 to 140.
Here
but, you can also here include the datations which span through a whole century. Another thing which is very, very interesting to deal with, but this is also a question of debate. There are some authority lists now for time periods. If you have something like the beginning of 3rd century AD, what do we do with this? How exactly do we quantify the beginning?
First 25 years.
Probably yes, but I don't believe that this is because you can.
I think that this is the standard. The first half is
the question is that there is no standard.
There is the first half, and the beginning is till 25.
Sometimes it's the first 15 years. I have seen this. There is something called periodo, which you can use for this purpose, but it's not accepted as a standard which is accepted as true and valid for all. But yes, there are some attempts at standardization, and you can base your decisions on that.
I think that we have this in the dates presentation.
Yeah, okay. And I will also link to the periodo thing. But another very important thing that I forgot to tell you according to this presentation, you have provenance type observed, except for provenance type found. Here we have as sub-elements the so-called seg which stands for segment, because we want to have everything in a bilingual form, description in both English and Bulgarian. In your case, it will be English and your local language, Macedonian, Serbian, etc. This is why we have these segs, but if you do a monolingual corpus, they don't need necessarily to be there. But provenance type observed means two things. You may not choose to fill this. This maybe is not something that holds true for all the inscriptions that you have. This is first, it could mean any episode between the production of the monument, between what you encode in the origin part, and the provenance type found information, between its finding and its original production and its current modern find spot and modern whereabouts. This is if somebody has seen these inscriptions somewhere else in the meanwhile, say a traveler from the 18th century saw this in a church or in a hammam, as it sometimes happens, a Turkish bath in the town of Küstenville, which was now demolished. And now the inscription in question is found in the original historical museum at Küstenville, but it was once stored at the hammam. And in this case, you fill in the information in the provenance type observed here. Or another thing that can be filled in here is if the inscription is found somewhere in situ, built in a later building, or exposed somewhere in the urban milieu for everybody to see, or presented somewhere in an open air lapidarium or something like this. This is also something that you can fill in here in provenance type observed, which is kind of complementary to the repository and institution, because in this case, an inscription might not have an institution where it is stored. It is simply out there somewhere in the door. We have had cases of inscriptions which served as altarpieces in churches. For example, in this case, and they continue to serve as altarpieces in churches, and in that quality they are not very easily accessible for anyone to see, but still you want to encode the information that they are there. They are there. In this case, you also fill the provenance type observed. So this is firstly if somebody has observed the monument, had observed the monument before somewhere else and in different circumstances, then it's a modern find spot. And if the monument is to be found currently somewhere else outside the museum. And yes, this is what I was about to say until now.